Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So this will be going up on both the Shanna show and SE Crochet Studio, so whichever one you're tuned into, hi, welcome back. I realize, at least with the Shanna show, if you're watching this on SE Crochet Studio, I post to the Shanna show every Friday, so if you want more content from me, then go over to the Shanna show. And I realized that I hadn't gotten stuff scheduled for publication, like I hadn't gotten stuff recorded and scheduled for May, past May 2nd. So this past Friday, which was like the 9th, I didn't have anything up, and I apologize for that. But hopefully this will give me like a buffer week to get the rest of the month out of the way. It's only like 2 more Fridays. And then I'll be going into June, and I'll try to be on top of June for the Shanna show videos. And this is just going up on SE Crochet Studio on whichever Sunday it happens to land. Maybe on the first Sunday of June, we'll have to see. If not, it'll just be up on SE Crochet Studio when it's up. Anyway, I'm gonna move on from that topic. So as you can tell from the title and the thumbnail, we're talking about some of the TikTok drama that's been going on with the crochet niche of TikTok, the crochet side of TikTok. And that is largely because I feel like it needs to be discussed and talked about, because we need to talk about this kind of stuff some more. So give me 1 second. Okay, so I had to step away for a minute, but I have a bunch of links down below in the description that you can reference. I don't reference them all in the video, but I did take a read through all of them in preparation for this video. Okay, that helps a little bit. So basically the topic of this is selling crochet patterns, whether or not they should be free. And the thing is that this was sparked by one of the people I follow. I think we're mutuals, I'm not quite sure. Nodded by Sam on TikTok, and they had posted a video saying like, what's your wildest crochet opinion? And it kind of turned into an unpopular crochet opinion video, or like wildest unpopular crochet opinion. But one person had said, if a crocheter, a pattern creator is rude to me and I bought the pattern from them, then I will just not buy from them again, on top of just giving the pattern to my friends for free, which is kind of a touchy subject if we're going to think about it, because there is a reason why they listed it for sale. At the end of the day, there is a reason why they listed the pattern for sale and not for free on a blog or a website or their YouTube or their Instagram, whatever social media platform. There's a reason why they didn't list it for free on any platforms they have available, and why they listed it for sale. And part of it is trying to make a living, and also part of it is dependent on the time and work and hours and yarn that went into it. Like, I'm currently working on a pattern, like an overarching blanket pattern. This is going to be like a little security blanket, like a little baby security / lovey blanket. And I'm writing a pattern for this, and this is going to be an overarching pattern for just row blankets in general. And this is something I am going to list for sale, not super expensive, but because I don't like listing patterns at I personally, for me, don't like listing patterns above $10 unless it's a really comprehensive pattern that includes multiple different things. This pattern, the pattern for this blanket, that might be closer to $10 and maybe a little bit above $10, like 12 to 15 at the most. because I am doing multiple blankets for this pattern. I'm doing all of the different sizes of blanket. You can have Lovey, Security, the what's the thing you call it's not a carousel, stroller covers. There we go. Stroller covers. I'm gonna try to cover the gambit of blankets. So this one might be over $10, but most of the other patterns that I have listed are under $10. So that's just my personal rule when listing crochet patterns. And I know that other crochet pattern creators do list it within that kind of $5 to $15 US dollar window based on what's in the pattern. Because if you have a 2-in-1 pattern or 3-in-1 pattern, then that took the pattern creator more time because they had to do both sizes, or they had to do all 3 variations. So that's kind of why I just like, that's kind of like the basis from coming into it as to why a pattern creator will most likely not list something for free, because of time. Like I said earlier, because of time, energy, yarn that went into it, that went into that specific pattern or that specific bundle of patterns. So there's that to consider as to why someone might not be listing something for free. And I think if you're distributing a pattern, like, unless you intended it for it to be a gift, which can be a little bit iffy, but if you intend for something to be a gift, I suggest you print it out and then give it to them as a gift. Give it to the intended person as a gift in the printed form, just because it can be a little bit iffy if you send it the PDF version. But again, either way, it's a little bit iffy. But like I was saying, unless you intend it as a gift, like, it's seriously a disregard and borderline disrespectful to the crochet pattern creator who made it and listed it for sale. Because, like I've said, this is the 3rd time now, they spent a lot of time, probably hours, not just making the item or items in the pattern, but also another hour or so, another hour plus, at the very least an hour, writing out the pattern, writing out like the little beginning thank you note and all the little stuff. Like, they spent the time and energy putting the pattern together as well, on top of making the item itself, to know that it was good, as well as getting it out to pattern testers. Because, and any pattern testers, they're also spending time, money, yarn on the pattern. So it is almost a blatant disregard, if not fully disrespectful, to the time, effort, yarn that went into that specific pattern, if you're just distributing it willy-nilly. Now, to go on to the if they're rude to me part, then I'll do that, of the comment. Like, the thing is, there is the basis of what rude is. There is the basic general definition of what rude is. But rude is very subjective. Like, beyond that, rude is very subjective. Like, I could say that a person who I passed by in the grocery store was rude to me because they gave me they glared at me and just walked by. And like, with me, I smile at people a lot. Like, I'm one of those people where it's like, I naturally kind of smile. Even if I'm not fully there mentally, like, I'll still smile at people and nod hello. And so that, to me, like, not that I would actually consider this rude, but that to me could be considered rude if someone is glaring at me and doesn't say anything. Not that I would actually consider it rude, but it's like, that could be I could consider that rude, yet my best friend wouldn't think twice about it because it wouldn't be rude to her. Again, not that it's actually rude to me, I'm just using that as an example. So you see, rudeness is very subjective. It's like bumping into someone, that can be considered as rude if whether or not there's an apology, that can be considered rude. Like, oh, you bumped into me when you had space. And it's like, again, like, it just happened, you know? Like, another person could be like, oh, they just bumped into me, no big deal. So more specifics of what rudeness is very subjective. So maybe the crochet pattern creator was having a bad day, and again, that's no excuse for rude behavior, but like there are multiple other explanations for what might be rude or disrespectful, and maybe they weren't trying to be rude. And the thing is, when you're buying something online, when you're buying a pattern online, there are obviously going to be things lost in translation, because you're not calling up the pattern creator. You're not calling up and asking them questions. Most likely you're not going to be doing that. You're not seeing them face to face. Again, this is in the online setting. You're not seeing them face to face at a craft market or a farmer's market and asking them questions. So there is something lost in translation when it comes to text messages rather than phone calls or in-person conversations. And there's something going to be lost in translation. So maybe they said something a certain way that you took as rude, but they didn't intend it to be rude. So there's also that to consider. So kind of just generalizing, at the end of the day, if a pattern creator listed a pattern online for sale, that's not necessarily something you should be just distributing willy-nilly, because again, there is a reason why they there's a reason why they listed it for sale on Etsy, whether it's their business or whether they're just trying to make ends meet. And again, like, the only thing where I could reasonably justify sending a pattern to someone is, again, like I mentioned, if it's intended to be a gift. But in that situation, I would highly recommend printing it out and then giving it to them, giving it to the intended gift recipient. But again, that's like a little bit iffy, but that would be the most reasonable thing in my mind as to why you would give the pattern to someone else. And if you feel that a pattern creator was rude to you, just don't buy from their shop again, or don't engage with their site if they have a site, and don't engage with their social media. Just, there's nothing wrong in just no longer engaging with their content, whether it's social media or their shop. And it's as simple as just stopping, you know, and not, it's words. It's similar to when people comment saying like, oh, I don't like your content, or like, I don't like X, Y, and Z, or I hate X, Y, and Z, you know? It's like you're taking the time out of your day to comment on something you don't like, saying you don't like it, when you could have just scrolled by. You could have just stopped watching. If you're on YouTube, you could have just gone to the YouTube homepage and done a different video. You could say not interested and gone to your homepage or FYP for you page and just selected a different video, or started watching other videos, rather than engaging with something you don't like and giving engagement to something you don't like. So to reference some of the stuff, I wanted to at least so I am going to reference the links that I have down below in the description. Again, there are a couple more. There's at least I think there's 5 in total, but I'm going to reference 3 of them. So with the Reddit one, what do you think about paying for patterns if you can't find a similar one for free? Essentially, this person says, for context, I'm 23, the only crocheter in my family, with the exception of my 86-year-old grandmother. Okay, sorry, I had to step away again. Okay, so I'm the only one who crochets apart from my 86-year-old grandmother. I have some pattern books or principle handed down from her, but most are very complex and above my current skill level or just not my personal taste. Grandma really likes crocheting more lace projects with fine yarn. I prefer 4-weight or above. I recently have been buying more patterns off of Etsy for my projects, partly because I don't find free ones that fit the idea in my head, and partly because I want to support those who can create patterns, because I can see how difficult it can be and how much skill goes into it. 100%. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of time, effort, yarn, and skill that goes into making a pattern. And not just like typing up the pattern, but actually making the item or items in the pattern, like I said before. Okay. Where was I? Plus, it's usually only a few bucks. A pattern, which I don't mind spending. I mentioned this to my mother recently, and she seemed appalled that I would buy patterns when I can find them for free online. It's my money, obviously, so it doesn't make a difference what she thinks, and I will continue to support pattern makers if I feel so inclined to do so, but I was curious as to what everyone else's opinions on the matter. Do you buy patterns or stick to the ones you have, or free patterns? Okay, so someone says there was a deleted comment. This was from like 2 years ago. So a little bit of context, so like 2023-ish. So both, sometimes I buy a pattern if they're really unique or if I don't feel like trying to find a similar one. But I will also look for free patterns or more genetic stuff. I think they meant generic stuff. As a third thing, I'll use the free pattern as a guide and personalize it to what I'm looking for. Like I'm making a Christmas stockings, but I found a few free ones to understand the shaping, but I've been freestyling the rest of it. That's what I'm doing for the cardigan, which is taking me forever to do. I'm following Pretty and Pete's pattern, but I'm kind of freestyling it with the style of Granny Square. Just because if I did the Granny Square Pretty and Pete suggested for the scrappy yarn, for the scrappy cardi, then the squares would have been way too big. At least with the yarn that I'm personally using. But, and then the original poster responded, the OP responded, this 100% between Ravelry and Etsy. I do both free and bought. If I come across a free pattern that I think I might use, I always snag it. But for specific, I will buy and support a small business creator. Someone else responded like about me commenting on like the genetic part. I know there's autocorrect, but the idea of genetic crochet patterns make me giggle. Fair enough. Another person said, I've been pretty lucky with the patterns I've bought. They've been worth the money, adequately written, usually tested, etc. Part of my calculation of deciding if I want to make something is deciding if I want to spend the money on a paid pattern, and knowing that patterns are usually written well. In my case, if I decide the money isn't worth it, it's also not worth my time. I don't want to make it badly enough. I'm not badly wanting to make it. To search out similar free patterns or patterns that might not be written as well. That said, if the designer offers a free version with ads on their blog and a paid PDF version, 9 times out of 10, I will use the free version. So yeah, a lot of crochet pattern creators, and I think knitting pattern creators do this, where they have like a blog or a website where they post their pattern for free with ads that come up on their blog or their site, and then they also offer a PDF version that does not have the ads that you can pay for a small nominal fee. So I know a lot of pattern creators do that. Okay. Someone else commented saying, my role for buying patterns or downloading/viewing free ones is how creative is this? If it's one of a kind or I completely love everything about it, then I'll support the local artist. I also love to support artists' work. However, if it is basic or if I feel they are charging for something that is already out on the internet for free, I will use the free pattern. So example from today, I saw an Etsy crochet pattern for $5 USD for a crochet bowl cozy for microwavable bowls. If it was just the bowl shape only with single crochet stitches, very boring and basic. So I went to Pinterest and found the same pattern from a different artist for free. I have no guilt in doing that. Had the artist on Etsy, added interesting stitches, or even made handles for this project, I probably would have purchased it. There's that too. Like, if you don't want to support the creator but you're seeing patterns that you like from them, you can always find something for free online. There are free patterns available. So that is all I will focus on from Reddit, at least a Reddit post. Another one, Crochet Business School. What's the point in publishing free crochet patterns? So basically with this one, it kind of like, how do I benefit? Okay, let's focus on this little part. How do I benefit from publishing free crochet patterns? There are at least 11 ways that you can make free crochet patterns work for you. So let's see. They have a grab this free download for the whole list. And there are sites that do this where it's like, here's a free download of the pattern. So it's like, so like, you can make it work for you where it's like you're talking about the pattern, you talk about working, like how you did it, your process, etc., and say like, hey, download a free pattern. So it's like you can make it work for you, and then you can get traction from that. The patterns are free, but I also offered a paid option to avoid the ads that I had on my blog. The pattern not only made me hundreds of pounds in the best way to get free patterns to work for you is by publishing them on your blog or shoot a video to publish them on YouTube. This is because you can monetize on both of these with ads. But you can still make free patterns work for you in some ways without a blog or YouTube, but your options are more limited. So, and it can be a situation, at least with free patterns, you can like just make the pattern, list it for free, and then you're selling whatever you make from those patterns. And then that way you're still kind of getting some monetary product from the item, or monetary profit from the item itself, but you're also getting monetary profit from the ads. The reason why I'm saying monetary profit is because it's on my screen. So that's like that one where it's like there can still be profit from free patterns, which I liked that it mentioned that. And kind of on the flip side from Straight Hooked, why all crochet patterns can't be free. So a disclosure, I am a blogger. I allow ads on my site as well as affiliate links. If you click an ad, I may receive some small compensation. If you make a purchase through one of my affiliate leads, blah, blah. Anyway. So like, they have their sections of, let's see, designing a pattern doesn't happen overnight. No, it does not, because you're, like I've mentioned, you're actually making the item or items for that pattern as well as typing it up. And yes, it can happen within 1 to 2 hours if it's a small project, but generally speaking, it will not be a short amount of time. It will be longer. So then their next section is crochet patterns cost less than a cup of coffee. Words. Crochet patterns cost less than a cup of coffee. That is true. Like I would say the most expensive crochet pattern, like I was mentioning earlier, what I would list it as, like 10 to 15, that's probably the amount of a coffee. But if you're talking about like a basic pattern, it's way cheaper than a cup of coffee. That is a tongue twister for me right now. Just because it's free doesn't give you, okay, this I feel like is important. Just because it's free doesn't give you the right to be impolite. And just because someone is rude doesn't mean you, I mean, sometimes there are situations where if someone's rude, then you do kind of get to be rude back. But just because, like, again, like I was mentioning earlier, where it's like if you're doing it over messages, if you're doing a fully online transactional thing where it's all online, then things will be lost in the context of just the words written out. So in this part, they say, when you look at all the effort I put in to design and publish a single pattern, it's very clear that I'm working for pennies an hour, maybe even less than that. This person also mentions, we work very hard at producing our patterns for you. A small handful of crochet bloggers who have been around for many, many years are able to make a full-time living from their business, but most of us rely on another full-time job in order to keep us afloat. So in a lot of cases, like, ideally many crocheters who are selling their patterns, who are selling the items to make, a lot of us want it to be our full-time job, want to make a good amount of money, a comfortable living wage from this, but at the same time it's not something that's feasible for us oftentimes, because like many of us, like like that blog said, was like, oftentimes we're not getting enough traction initially to be able to make it our full-time job, which, like, that has its pros and cons, because it's like, in that case, like, if you don't know how to like balance between the hobby part of it and the job part of it, then like maybe you need more time doing that. But at the end of the day, like I said, there is a reason why someone is listing the pattern for sale rather than for free, and on the flip side, there's a reason why they're listing it for free rather than for sale, or why they're doing both. And you can't just assume that. And if you're at a farmer's market or a craft market, or buying something in person and have the person-to-person transaction, then that's when it can be a little bit easier of like, hey, this person was rude to me, I'm not going to buy anything more from them, and I'm going to tell my friends like, hey, this person was rude to me, so maybe see if you can find some other things from other crochet artists or on other blogs. But when you're doing it online, it can be hard to distinguish what is actually intended as rude versus you reading it as rude in your mind, which either way it's perfectly valid, but it's like there has to be that distinction when you're buying something online, when you're buying a pattern online. And sometimes it can, like I said, sometimes it can be hard to make that distinction between what was actually intended as rude and something you're misinterpreting. And just because someone is rude to you does not necessarily give you the right to distribute something that they spent time, money, yarn, or some other form of material into making. Just because they're rude, it doesn't give you the right to distribute a pattern that they made for free. And again, like, it can be a little bit of a slippery slope when it's regarding like a gift, but like there are ways to go about that without distributing the PDF pattern. So those are just my thoughts, my opinions about this, as well as sharing some other discourse about this. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.